I'm Danielle Casey, and I'm the president and CEO of Albuquerque Regional Economic Alliance. I'm really excited to continue conversations that we've been having around the issue of site readiness and its critical impact on economic development. And I have a friend with me, Rebecca Latham with HB Construction, new to HB Construction, not new to doing very cool things in New Mexico. Can you give us a little bit about your background and then tell me more about HB?
Well, I think my trajectory has been anything but typical. I moved to New Mexico 20 years ago to pursue my career in radio. I had a morning show here on KOB-FM for a while. Left to move to the mountains, became Tourism and Economic Development Director in Red River, which then led me to the State Tourism Department. I served as the Cabinet Secretary of Tourism for 4 years under Susana Martinez. I then transitioned into nonprofits, as is typical, most recently as the CEO of Girl Scouts of New Mexico Trails, which then, of course, logically prepared me for a career in commercial construction, which is where I am today.
I love that. I mean, that's one thing that I found that is so cool about New Mexico. I do find really amazing people that have been able to explore different career paths in this state more than any others that I've seen. Anybody that doesn't know about HB, what do you all specialize in and focus on? So what's going on over there?
Oh, New Mexico really has been so important to HB and vice versa. HB Construction is a family-owned company. We specialize in really great projects. We operate with a lot of integrity, which is what attracted me to the company in the first place. Best places to work for 8 years running. Wow. But HB is really proud of building many multifamily homes, schools. We're doing some film studio projects. We work a lot at Intel. We're building a behavioral health center for UNM Hospital. So we have a pretty diverse portfolio. But I think that is something that is so great about so many of our general contractors in New Mexico is, the personal touch and the fact that we're all doing it because we believe in a better New Mexico.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I can certainly vouch for that. I've seen it happening day in and day out. So we've talked in the past a little bit about, okay, maybe you're not a career economic developer, and that's not necessarily the thing that you've studied for 20 years, but there's always a way. I personally think everybody's an economic developer at heart that's been involved in the community. Can you paint me a picture of how you would translate economic development and site readiness, being ready for an opportunity? Give me a little bit of an example about how you see that in your head.
Yeah, I think, as I started researching a lot about site readiness, the whole idea of being open for business. The one example that really stuck out to me is on my first day at HB Construction, when I walked in for orientation, I had a cell phone that had already been pre-programmed with my number, the apps that I was going to need. My business cards were already printed with that phone number and on my desk. My computer had already been set up for me with the apps and important links that I needed already bookmarked. My passwords, username and passwords had already been set up for me and given to me on a nice sheet of paper. Here's everything you need to know. And what that signaled to me was get to work. That they were ready for me to get to work. This company is investing a lot in me and they didn't want to waste any time with, let's, get you set up with a phone. Let's get your business cards. They had everything ready for me. And that to me simplifies site readiness so much. Especially with companies that we as a state are investing in, just like my employer is investing in me. When I walked in that day, they said, we are ready for you to do the job we are hiring you to do. And so for New Mexico to not be able to do that with ready sites, right. Especially again, when we are investing in companies to be here and then saying, oh, but we'll be ready for you to get to work in 18 to 24 months.
Exactly.
It just seems so absurd. And so I think, a lot of times we hear about we should run government like a business. If we're not hearing that, then we need to be saying it more. We should be running government like a business. That to me is just such a simple example of, we got to get to work.
Exactly. Now, absolutely. It's such a great analogy, right? Because think of the opportunity cost of bringing you in and going, oh, I guess we better set up email for you.
Right.
Because, by the way, you clearly have an awesome onboarding team. So kudos for clearly a very well-run shop over at HB. And we see that a lot. And we have these challenges where we have companies that really, really love what our market looks like, all the beauty. I mean, we are the land of enchantment.
Yeah.
But if we can't get them up and running, time is money. We've talked about that with other people in this series as well on the criticality of getting them moving so you can be productive and starting to deliver on that promise.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's the same. I use this analogy a lot. Like, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And I think it's the same kind of, like if we are not demonstrating in the global market that we are serious about doing business, and we're going to hand out like little piddly here's or there's, or we're going to not expect something from the companies that we are investing in or that we are courting, then that just from day one sends a message that we're not serious. This is private sector. They are serious about everything. Yeah. Why can't we be?
Absolutely. Well, and I'll go with the analogy even further. They're picking a really great candidate and bringing somebody on who's highly skilled. That's a competitive environment right there. And when I look at companies that want to come to our market, what I really want to do are attract the firms that are bringing net new wealth in, that are creating new career opportunities and pathways that frankly are not coming here because they think it's a cheaper or cost-cutting place to operate. They're coming here because it's the best place for them to operate and because we're able to deliver those solutions for them. We've actually looked at area at many different states, and I think we have a count of 36. There may be more, but 36 other states or markets that have an active site readiness program. And what this really means is pre-homework. So we call it site characterization and pre-development. First, looking at the properties and understanding what's the best opportunity. Does this site here, whether it's publicly or privately owned, is it best suited for manufacturing or is it best suited for retail, et cetera? Understanding the actual infrastructure needs, and then figuring out how to get ahead of that curve and pay for that. And I think about that, just as the way is you're going to invest in a great employee and somebody who's going to serve that company. But I do want to see us being able, if we are proactive, I believe and know that we can bring companies that are going to bring the right services and the right opportunities to our community to really grow that overall pie and create better outcomes in the community.
Right.
So it's a big focus for us. So, you've been in the state a couple of decades, you're really following your callings here and really enjoying it. We've talked also in the past about, how many looks you maybe don't know that you're getting. And I think you have another great analogy for me. Could you talk about home sales?
Yeah, the legislature, when I was at the tourism department, the legislature used to ask, every year they'd ask, well, how many people aren't coming to New Mexico? And I would look them straight in the eye and be like, you know what, that's a great question. One that we can never absolutely answer. And I think the same, goes for economic development. From the moment you're contacted, and you're tracking leads and you're working those leads and you're doing everything that you should be doing, when they go someplace else.
Sure.
We don't yet know about the companies who are not even looking at us. And that to me just feels like a few years ago, we were trying to sell our house. But it became so daunting because and this is back when real estate was booming. So things were going to go quick. And it was but we're going to have, we list it, then we're going to have to find a place for the dogs. And then we're going to have to we're going to keep the kids' rooms cleaned. And it became so daunting that we were just forget it. We'd rather just stay in this house. And fortunately, a neighbor said, we have a young couple that's looking to buy. Would you meet with them? So we never even had to list it.
Wow.
And then we bought from a friend, so we, it all just worked out. Nobody had to actually list our stuff. We still used realtors, but we didn't have to go public with it. But I think how many times we don't know how many people would have bought your home If if they would have been driving by and said, like, this looks like a great house, I want to own this house, you don't know what they would have paid. Everything is for sale, whether you want to sell your house or not, everything is for sale. We never know how many people are looking past New Mexico for economic development or to bring their corporations here, because we're not putting a message out there that we're serious. And like, we don't
100%.
have the available site. We will never know the full extent of what we're missing out on.
Absolutely. If we don't have something proactively to put out there, if you don't have clothes on the rack, nobody's going to shop at your store. I completely agree, and we usually kind of talk that lingo in the economic development world. Most projects you will never see, you will never know about, because they did a cursory look, and maybe they saw a business climate they didn't like, maybe they didn't see other things. What I can say right now is the surveys we're seeing of site selectors, the top two things that they're looking at first are, do you have a site that can satisfy my physical location needs in the time frame I need it? And utility demand is raising in criticality exponentially. AI, stuff like that, big utility demands. But you've got to be able to satisfy that. And then you've got to be able to satisfy our workforce needs, which leads to housing. And without infrastructure, guess what? No new houses.
And I think we have, New Mexico is really, we love a good plan, and which is hard for me because I'm not a planner. I'm a doer. Let's do it and figure it out on the way. But New Mexico loves a good plan. New Mexico loves a good pilot. I think we have so many examples now of when it actually works. When we invest in site readiness, like in all four corners of the state, we've got success stories of something was ready. Like, if you build it, they will come. And it is working. Santa Teresa is just huge.
They're doing an incredible job.
Clovis, Los Lunas, Mesa del Sol. There's so many success stories. So what are we waiting on?
Exactly. Well, hopefully we're not. And the great news that we're all very excited about as we enter the legislative session is area has worked with partners like the New Mexico Economic Development Department, your former sister department, if you will, or colleague department, as well as a group called New Mexico IDEA, which is the Economic Developers Professional Association across the state. I think that's important because this is a topic that's not just, central New Mexico centric, but it's the whole state. And so we have seen in the governor's budget, she has recommended $24 million to do site readiness. I'll say when we look at other states, they're investing 100, 200 million. Yeah. So I like to toss that out there as also wishful thinking, but this is exciting. And so, what we're hopeful for is that could also be really very strong seed and a great pilot program to get something going where absolutely, if you don't invest in yourself, if you're trying to sell your house and you don't bother to clean it up or maybe paint the front door because it's all messed up, you're going to get a lower offer price or maybe not an offer at all.
Yeah, right? Or not an offer at all. Like if you don't just take those first steps to let people know that you are open to selling your house, you're going to be stuck with it forever.
Exactly. Well, I want to hit on one more thing. Your experience in tourism, and nonprofits, and you have a very wonderful eclectic perspective. We chase a lot of target industries. So we think about that for our region, and we've worked with the state and we've identified a few that we work really hard on because we go, oh my goodness, the exponential opportunity in this specific industry is suited to our state, suited to the skills we have, and also maybe even to our geography. If you had in a dream in your head, what industry would you pick to really grow and do something tremendously cool if the sky was the limit?
So this vision has recently been reignited for me thanks to other really cool people in New Mexico. I had the privilege of serving on the Spaceport Authority for 5 years when I was the Secretary of Tourism. And even at that point, I don't think I really understood what the purpose of the spaceport was, right? Mm-hmm. I got because from a tourism perspective, I was Virgin Galactic, Lady Gaga, understand, roger that. Now, being educated by some of the incredible people working on boosting our aerospace industry here in New Mexico, I'm a self-proclaimed I'm a space nerd. And I see, there's this, the Space Valley Foundation, there is this, this parallel of Silicon Valley was not always Silicon Valley.
Absolutely.
Like some very strategic decisions had to happen, so they had to do some things, and then now all of a sudden, like globally, Silicon Valley is known for if you're making chips, you're making them there.
Yep.
Why can't we be the Space Valley? This whole area of New Mexico, I think we're dealing with a lack of understanding by members of the legislature, by members of the public. When we say space, they think of Roswell.
Right, Little Green Men.
And they think of like spaceport. There's so much more, in manufacturing, and the spaceport as a purpose-built spot is great for Virgin, but like how many things are we missing out on because we don't have the infrastructure?
Well, you know what? It's such a perfect, I totally agree with you, by the way. I think space, aerospace, and defense, everything connected with that cluster is absolutely, first of all, it's what we're good at. It's what our history is tied to.
It is our, it's not just our New Mexico history, that is our national history, like with defense.
So an anecdote that I put this out here, not to be negative, but to go, what are the possibilities as we think about site readiness? As I'm sure you know, we have a wonderful Virgin Galactic presence in New Mexico, but they're building their manufacturing facility in Mesa, Arizona at Williams Gateway Airport. So let's not let that happen again.
Right.
Let's make sure. But one of the reasons was because they had worked, and I watched this. I spent a good amount of my career in Arizona. They spent decades. And Mesa Gateway is a former Air Force base, multiple jurisdictions. The city of Mesa, the city of Phoenix, and multiple cities all came together to create that as a shovel-ready industrial park development with intentionality, local and regional investment from communities around the region, and they are getting unprecedented traction because of that forward-thinking investment. And so I don't really necessarily see this as like, aw shucks, I'm upset. I go, wow, look at that model. And if we were to invest in ourselves the way they did proactively, it doesn't happen overnight, but we will have the future Virgin Galactic's manufacturing space and that presence for innovation in the community. So I think, truthfully, the sky really is the limit for us.
And the time is now. Like, to go back to your earlier point of like, well, 24 million is great, and we definitely don't want to throw our noses up at 24 million, but other states are investing a lot more than that. Like, we have between unallocated or unused capital outlay and between oil and gas, like we have more money than we will ever have again until next year.
We've got to use it wisely.
We've got to use it wisely, but this is wisely. This is the time. And, I am definitely supportive and grateful of the members of our legislature and the governor taking a more proactive stance on like what's going to make New Mexico the safest place to live. But it doesn't have to be, well, first we tackle one issue and then we tackle economic development. Like we cannot afford to wait. So I'm like, well, just get it done, gang.
It's exciting because we're seeing a lot of really wonderful momentum, and so we're gonna watch and assist in every way we can as an economic development agency. And thanks to you and thanks to HB for being one of our many amazing partners and supporters. And we'll keep on keeping on.
Well, thank you so much for doing all the work that you're doing and like showcasing New Mexico and. It's just such a special place, and we've got so much potential. I'm glad you're at the helm.
Thank you. Thanks for being with me today.